everyone. Once again, this is Joe from Joyful Noise Productions, here today wearing a flannel. Today is flannel season. But before we go any further, please do me a favor. Like this video, share it to all your friends, and don't forget to subscribe. Also, hit the notifications button so you'll know when the next video comes down. So, without any further ado, let's get into it. Now, what we're going to talk about today are these guys. Whether it comes to achieving professional sound, whether it be audio or video, using your ears is effectively crucial. In fact, it's the most important tool you can have as an audio engineer. One thing about your ears is that it will ultimately help you to make right decisions of when it comes to EQ, compression, and every other aspect of mixing and mastering music. Yet, so many of us rely too heavily on visual aids, like meters and analyzers. And because of that, it makes us feel that our own hearing is not enough. When we rely on visual aids, it can lead to a false sense of security or confirmation. You might think that your mix only sounds great because the levels look good on a meter. But when you actually listen to it, it falls flat. That's why a lot of people struggle with their mixes. And I'll admit, I've been there myself. You know, we had to watch the meters if the lights went red or as an indication of clipping, or maybe the level's not enough, is what we all at one, or at least some of us at one time, or maybe even some that are engaging now in audio engineering, is having that problem. When it comes to mixing and using visual aids, you might be overcompensating a track because the analyzers are telling you to do so. But when you trust your ears, you can hear that it's sucking the life out of music, because those little things will tell you that. Your ears say, you know, hey, I'm putting a little too much compression here, or maybe I'm cutting too much, or I'm over boosting. Now, the worst part, as of recently, sometimes it brings out a false conclusion of evidence in the discussion. And unfortunately, in today's society, that can be taken as gospel, which creates a lot of misguided trouble. So allow me to give you 5 concepts that I've learned when it comes to using your ears. So let's go ahead. Let's start with the first one: critical listening. When we learn critical listening, it encourages us to be practicing active listening to detect issues in a mix or in recordings, such as tonal balance, panning, spatial effects, placements, and stuff like that. You can even hear little nuisances such as pitch and modulations of the instrument, whether it be a stringed instrument or a vocal or even a drum. Those are examples of things that only the ears can hear. Like you can know when a guitar's out of tune, or you can know when a drum is resonating too much. Or another example would be singers. You can hear the way they would sing. Sometimes you can hear little vibratos in their singing. You can tell that they're actually pushing it. Or there are even some that are lip syncing. When you do little critical listening, you're able to hear those little things. So you can tell what's real and what's fake. Number 2, understanding frequencies. In mixing, controls, when you're mixing, when you got controls like EQ, which have like gain frequencies and cues, those things open up different ranges and impact the sound overall. Now, when you do EQing, think of each of those frequencies as a volume knob. So when you turn up the gain, it brings up the frequency a little bit more. When you widen it up, it makes it even more present, which is your cue. Or what you also do is you kind of try to spread the band around so that it pick up the other frequencies as it goes, which is going to call boosting. Or if you turn back on the gain and everything dips, that becomes what you call your cut. See, the more you turn them up, the more frequencies will reveal themselves. And same thing can be said about the opposite. When we try to cut and boost frequencies as we mix, we try to listen to how this is going to sit in our ears. Our ears are going to tell us what sounds good and what doesn't. I remember one time that Warren Hewitt talked about his father-in-law, I believe it was. And his father-in-law received a CD or a tape or something like that. And he asked his father-in-law, well, what did you think of it? He goes, it doesn't sound good. Because he asked him, how did he feel how he sounded? He wanted to pass it off to Warren, but Warren asked him the question, how did you feel about it? And obviously the man who probably doesn't have no inkling of music said, it just doesn't sound good. Then he goes, if it doesn't sound good, then it isn't good. So when we understand frequencies, it'll help us to make those judgments on what we hear. Hearing details. Only your ears can hear or spot nuances like reverbs, distortions, even the dynamic range, which is crucial for making sound decisions in the studio. See, you can hear too much of something, like too much of reverb, too much distortion, or too much compression, or even sometimes maybe too many highs, too much lows, or it sounds muddy, it sounds too bright. Stuff like that can really come out. So just like in the previous point, your ears can help you make those adjustments, and you can adjust those to taste. So if something doesn't sound right, trust your ears until your hearing settles it. Training the ear. The best way to train your ears is to sit under a pair of speakers or headphones. Now, maybe in some cases, in your car. Hearing the sound source, whether you're using these reference types of tracks, whether it be music or you're hearing an instrument, or even if you have what they call ear training apps, or analyzing various different types of music, those things can help you identify these songs and identify certain things in those songs that the eyes cannot see. Such as, okay, this song makes me feel chill, it relaxes. Or even as one DJ mentioned, as a point of wisdom, when you listen to heavy metal, you tend to drive a little bit more aggressively. So when you train your ears to listen for certain things, sometimes you have to find the source, which is through a set of speakers. Sometimes even if the speakers don't sound good, or if you buy like an old stereo or something like that, you realize it sounds a little opaque. It's what your ears are actually hearing. Because sometimes even the older stereo systems weren't as hi-fi as some people thought they were back in the day. So they're gonna have a little bit of a different frequency. But now in this age where we have small speakers that sound terribly awesome, your ears can be able to hear those little nuances, or even if you use things such as Dolby Stereo, or today in most engineering, you'll have what they call Dolby Atmos. So you can be able to hear even more of what the song is putting out, or whatever you're listening to is putting out. Practical application. When you're developing listening skills with your ears, you can improve your technical proficiency in using EQ, compression, and other tools. That means as a mixer, you can play with the knobs. And when you start playing with the knobs, it's going to help you figure out, okay. So all that relies to everything that we talked about in the last 4. So again, when you begin to start playing with certain controls, even if you go on your car stereo, like when you pull up to another car and you hear the boom, 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 boom. You hear the first thing that'll come to mind is, dang, that's too much bass. I better tone that down. So when you learn, or let's just say your car stereo isn't sounding like immaculate or awesome, you can turn up the bass control, or maybe the treble frequencies. You can turn those things up to make the sound subtle, or make it sound sit right. So when you drive in the car, you have the best driving experience anywhere. So regardless of what audio tools you're using, the most important tool you're going to be needing are these. So tell me what you all think. If you think, nah, Joe, what do you know? You're just an up and coming audio engineer, you don't know how to discern things and stuff like that. You're just speaking out of your butt. But you're thinking, you know what, Joe? You're right. Maybe hearing will help us to be a little more discriminate in what we're listening to. So once again, do me a favor, like this video, share it to all your friends, and don't forget to subscribe. So until next time,